Hey guys, before we get started on Friday's video, I just wanted to say hello to somebody. Now, a friend of mine over in the States, good customer of mine, his mum's not been very well lately, and apparently he's been watching my videos with his mum, which I think is absolutely adorable. So I want to say hello to Cynthia Greninger. Hello, ma'am. I hope you're all doing all right. And you can understand me okay. I know I've probably got a bit of a strange accent, but look after yourself, and I know Wade's looking after you as well. So anyway, let's get on with the video. Hey guys, hope you're doing all right. It's Friday once again, which means it's the Friday Diary, and we're on YouTube. I'm kind of getting used to YouTube again a little bit. Let me just alter that. So professional. And I've changed my phone round so I can see myself talking to you, and hopefully it'll stop my nervous tics, my scratching and fidgeting. Won't stop my moving my hands. I can't talk without moving my hands. My mum always said if I tied your arms to your sides, you won't be able to talk, and she's right. But what I wanted to talk to you about today was trying to stay legal as a knife maker, especially in the UK. The rules and regulations move so quickly. Each government seems to want to implement its new schemes for safety. Whether you agree with them or not, it is quite tricky to stay legal. Now, I do love a good tactical knife. I love designing them, I love making them, and recently I've made a few. But there is knives that I'd love to make, that I'd love to own, that strictly aren't legal. Now, some of you may remember that I used to make a knife called the Lycan. That's actually the laser cut strip out of the Lycan. Now, the Lycan was what's known as a ringtail. It had a Scandi grind blade on it. Now, I looked deeper into the UK knife laws, and that knife could be deemed as what's known as a trench knife or a knuckle duster knife. There are ringtail knives available on the UK market. They tend to have a karambit blade. And they are a bit of a grey area, and I just wanted to stay legal. I don't want shutting down. I don't want locking up. I'm too old for jail. But that was the reason, or one of the reasons why I decided to discontinue the Lycan, was simply because I felt that it could be construed as falling into that trench knife area. And I just, one of the other knives that have had to modify is the Fenrir. Now, last September the government brought in more legislation over knives, types of knives that you could own, and they seem to be targeting machetes. Now, this is where I get annoyed, because to me, something like a machete is very agricultural. I've got a son who's an arborist. I know lots of agricultural workers. I know farmers, and they'll use a machete or a bill hook or stuff like that, quite innocently on a regular basis, for what it's designed for. Now, it's what annoys me more than anything about the legislation is the wording that they use. Now, they're clearly, when they're bringing these laws in, I grew up in a world where laws sounded professional. When you read through them, you shouldn't be able to understand them. There's all hitherto, wherefores, and all that kind of legal jargon. And the laws that have been passed over the last few years seem very much like they've just been written by somebody who's got the morning's newspaper out, listened to a couple of the friends and decided to write a legal document using catchphrases like zombie knife, like Rambo knife, even like, you know, referencing movies like Rambo and movies like Crocodile Dundee, but you know, they're like 40-year-old movies. Surely, if they're bringing stuff into law and creating a legal document, then we should have more technical information there. You know, specific blade lengths, specific blade profiles. Not, you know, it can't have holes in blade. Well, what does that mean? Can't have holes in blade. It can't have it can't have a serrated edge longer than 2.5 inches, or it can't have a serrated back on it. Well, what does that mean? What's a Crocodile Dundee knife? And then, referring to a Bowie in a separate context. I've seen that movie. That's a Bowie. It's not a Crocodile Dundee knife. It's a Bowie knife. And what do you class as a Bowie knife? Does it have to look exactly like the one in the movie? Same as a Rambo knife. Does it have to look exactly like the one in the movie? Because John Rambo used more than one knife. He had a different knife for every movie. If you're a nerd like me, you'll know these things. But when did we become a nation where we'd accept laws that have got movie references in it? Have we dumbed our population down that much that we have to speak to them like children? Or is that just what the lawmakers of this country perceive, that we need hand holding at every turn? I think they do. I'm a grown man, right? I'm a grown man. I'm not a very tall grown man, but I am a grown man. Look at my beard. I don't need somebody who's had no life experience telling me what I can and can't do. I hate it. And I know all this had come out. As soon as I started talking about law, I knew this had come out, because I really, really, really worry for this country when they make laws that are based on what they've read in the newspaper without actually getting experts in, without actually talking to somebody from, I don't know, Royal Armouries, for example, or the British Cutlery Association, for example, or, police officers. Because I know police officers, and I know serving police officers, I know people who work for the police on the Crown prosecution side, and I know retired police officers, and they're as confounded and amazed by some of the things that are being proposed and some of the things that have already been put into law. They're as amazed and confounded as I am. And I do get asked quite regularly what's legal to carry and what's not by police officers, and they've got a great big lock knife in the pocket. Now, you could say that, as an on-duty police officer, there are situations where you need a solid knife, and I'd agree with that. And for me, police officer, whether you're walking the streets or not, if you need a good solid knife, you need a good solid knife. I would totally agree with that. Just like, somebody who's working out in the forest or somebody who's working on a farm needs a good solid knife to rely on. A police officer I'm not talking about in a defensive situation, although, that could arise. I'm talking about in a situation where you need to cut something open really quickly, or, just what you would need a good solid knife for. But even the police don't seem to know what's going on when it comes to the legislation. And then we've got the meddlers, what I call the meddlers. So you've got people like Royal Mail who decide that they're going to make up their little in-house laws about what you can and can't send, and what the reality of that is. And I've had this said to me by Royal Mail, because I have had a few parcels come a cropper. The reality of it is that anything above 5 inches blade wise will get examined. That may be just a quick look at it, but that may also be sending away for assessment by an expert. Now, what they would not tell me was what deems an expert, and I hate that, I hate air quotes, but Royal Mail could not and would not tell me what their expert was qualified in. They would not tell me whether that person was, for example, a knife historian, a serving police officer, a former police officer, or just somebody who, you know, with a ruler. They would not tell me, and they cannot tell me. So, to my mind, Royal Mail need to wind their neck in, stop playing politics. And this, I mean, this is an argument I've had before. You either want my business or you don't. Fair enough, I haven't got an issue with sending stuff age verified. I won't sell a knife to anybody under 18, whether it's face to face or online. I will not do it. If I think you're under 18, I won't send you a knife, and I won't send it to a family member either. If you're at a show and you're not accompanied by an adult, I won't even let you. I won't even take a knife out of a cabinet. I've had it happen to me. Nice lad, really, you know, personable, stuff like that. But he wasn't 18. He was 17. But I could come a cropper. I really could come a cropper. Now, moving forward, the proposed update, or the next instalment, if you like, of the knife laws will be the implementation of licensing for importers of knives, sellers of knives, and makers of knives / sellers of knives. So me. But again, the wording is really ambiguous for this. I've read through everything that they've released so far, and this could be potentially an absolute fiasco, because what they are saying is, or what they are suggesting is, that anyone who owns a knife or uses a knife or buys or sells a knife or imports a knife will have to have a license. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but there's, I don't know, what is there now, 60 million people in UK. Every household and every kitchen, let's just say, I'm not saying every business, but every kitchen, every household and every kitchen has at least one knife in it. Now, how's this, what's this going to cost to implement? How are they going to implement it? Because the police, you know as well as I do, the police haven't got time to visit real crimes at the minute. So who's going to, how's it, and what's it going to cost, you know, what's it going to cost us? It's what it's going to cost to the taxpayer, but unit price for this license, what's it going to cost us? Are they going to set up a new like crime unit that like almost like the firearms issuing officers, firearms licensing issuing officers that are just specifically for knives? I can't see how they can enforce this. They can enforce it on me because, you know, I'm you know, all they've got to do is Google search, you know, knife makers in the UK, and there's a list. So they can enforce it on me, but how are they going to enforce it on Joe Public, who's got a Swiss Army knife and you know, maybe, I don't know, a William Rogers that he's had since he were in Scouts, and a couple of chef's knives in kitchen? I don't understand the thinking behind this. I don't understand the naivety of thinking, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll make sure that everybody's got a license. Now, who's going to be buying the licenses? It's going to be people like me. It's going to be people like bushcrafters, bushcraft instructors. You know, it's going to be chefs. The people The people who aren't going to be buying the licences are the criminals who are committing the crimes that they're bringing these licences in to stop. And they don't seem to understand this. Now, I get how politics works. They've got to be seen to be doing something. But who are they showing this to? Who's naive enough to believe that bringing in knife licensing will stop knife crime? It's not me, you know. It's not anybody I know, because they've all got a bit of common sense. If you haven't got common sense enough to think that these people who are committing these crimes won't carry on committing crimes, and just because you bring in a new law and a piece of paper is going to make you safer, then you're an idiot. I'm sorry, but you're an idiot and you're naive. Take responsibility for your own safety and, you know, think these things through, because before you know it, you won't be able to leave house without a licence. You know, you won't be able to cut your toast in a restaurant without somebody coming and checking to make sure you've got your knife handling licence and you've been on the course. Your mind boggles where it's going to end. It really does. But I knew this would end up. I knew it'd end up in a rant, and I wanted to try and keep it professional and kind of offer my opinion, but it's ended up being a rant, hasn't it? Anyway, now I've got that off my chest, I feel a little bit. It's good. It's good catharsis anyway, and I always found it's good catharsis talking to you guys. So have a great weekend. Look after yourselves. Look after each other, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.